Hello everyone tuning in, welcome. I'm Jacob, also known as the developer, also known as the designer, also known as J-Funk, also known as He Ill, whatever you want to call me by. Tonight I am drinking a Blue Moon iced coffee blonde. A lot of people say you shouldn't mix things, like you shouldn't mix coffee with beer. You shouldn't mix peanut butter with jelly. You shouldn't mix JS with CSS. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. Some things just go well together. So today we are going to be talking about styled components in React. So if you don't know what styled components are, it is a library that lets us write our CSS in JS. Now there's a bunch of different ways to do this. There's a library called Emotion, which is another notable library. But today we are going over styled components, which I have experience with. And the reason why we are going to be using styled components is because there are some drawbacks with CSS. Which I will get into in a little bit. So right now this is a repo. You can go ahead and clone, and you could code along with me or go ahead and check out the solution branch. So if you check out the repo, it's a basic React app. We have an app.js and an index.js. So the index is just exporting the app, and the app is just an empty div. That's all it is. That's what we're starting off with. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is a control backtick to bring up your terminal and install styled components. This is the main library that we're working with today. Okay. So first I just kind of want to talk about CSS real quick. So usually you have a style CSS. Sometimes you do a lot of styling such that the styles mix in with each other. So for example, paragraph tags. This is a default selector. We turn the text color to a red. Alternatively, if we have a class on a paragraph tag called paragraph, we give it the color blue. This will take a higher precedence. And then we have IDs. So you can have an ID called paragraph, and we'll give this the color green. So if you have an ID on a paragraph, that will take the higher priority, the highest priority. But sometimes if you have too many classes that are mixing too much together, things could get really confusing, and then you would just end up leading to something like this. Bang important. Now this line of code here will take precedence over the class and the ID. And I think if you ask a lot of experienced developers, they would see a lot of bang importance. But you do not want to use these. Ultimately, you want everything to apply styles to what it's applying to, and that's it. So styled components come in. It's really useful for working on a team, and you know that styles aren't leaking into other components. And now let me talk about CSS naming architectures, just a common convention to enhance team collaboration. So say like in a e-commerce app, you have a shopping cart item. And probably we want the color of this item to be blue. Now, alternatively, if the item is out of stock, we can add a block element modifier. Something like this, item out of stock, which will take precedence over this one. Now, you still have leakage sometimes. So these are great to use. You'll see a lot of these, I think, in the actual field. But but there's still some downsides to this. A main improvement from CSS is something that I like to call Sass, or SCSS. Now the benefit of this is you could do a lot of nesting. So let's stick with the shopping cart example. Inside a shopping cart, we might have items. So we can use this ampersand to refer to the parent. And then you can also use block element modifiers with Sass. So you can do a lot of this nesting going on. You could have, multiple selectors inside one rule. So that's what's great about Sass. You can also do mix-ins, you can do functions, you can do loops. So CSS preprocessors are really great. I highly recommend them. But today we are going to look at CSS in JS because that is what this is about. It's a little different from CSS and Sass, but ultimately it's cutting down the number of files that you will ultimately have in your project and have the styles. It's sort of like an opposite of separation of concerns. It's a unification of concerns. So a lot of the time when we talk about CSS and JS, you might see inline styles like this. So you could say everything in this div will be the color red. So that's how you do that. It's one way of doing it. A problem with this is you can't really do the nesting. You can't do functions. You can't really get crazy with it. But these definitely work, and they're specific to this element alone. It would be easy to find where the issue is here because it's defined inside of the component itself. So that's what we are working with right now. So that's local inline styles for you. So let's go ahead and create our first styled component. So let's go in here and create a Buttons.js. Now inside of our button component, let's import styled from styled components. Oh my God, this is a new keyboard for me, and I'm having a little trouble typing along with the coffee beer, so bear with me now. Okay, so now we will have, we can define our button as a style.button. Now, something cool here is this styled object has all of the different HTML elements in them. So we have paragraph, type H, we have H1, H2, H3, and so on. Pretty much all the HTML elements we need and more. So for now, we're just going to start with a button, and we will open up right after button 2 backticks for template string. Now this is where our CSS will go. So this is the peanut butter to our jelly, the CSS in the JS. Now, if you read online, this is a pretty controversial subject. It's kind of like mixing pineapple on pizza. All right, it's pretty controversial. But really, if you look past it, it tastes really good. I mean, just speaking from a general pizza lover's perspective. No offense to Italians who are super into their traditional pizza, a vaffanculo, whatever. I'm sorry. I love pineapple on pizza. So let's go ahead and start defining our button. We'll give it a background color of red. No border. So we're just sort of getting rid of the default button styling going on. We'll make the color inside the button white, and then we'll give it a padding of 12 pixels and 24 pixels. So let's do that, and then we can go ahead and export our button, default button. So let's go ahead and go into app.js and import our button. From buttons. And then you could define the button right here, click me. So let's go ahead and check out what we got. I might have forgot to mention that my computer is a 2012 MacBook Pro. I have a CD drive in case anyone wants a mixtape or a custom CD made by me. I have a pretty good taste in music, even though my taste in pizza might be subpar, you know. Okay, so as you could see, our styles were applied to this button. So let's talk a little bit now about inheritance. So something cool about styled components is that you're able to dry up your code a bit more by creating a sort of parent styled component to inherit into other styled components. So we will go ahead and use this as our, I guess, parent button. So let's go ahead and define a primary button. So usually in apps you see there's a primary button, a secondary button, a tertiary button. You know, maybe they're different colors. It depends on what you're making. So in order to inherit the properties of button, we'll go ahead and do styled parentheses button and then backticks to define additional styles in here. So I'm going to go ahead and refactor this a little bit such that it's a little bit more of what we want. So let's go ahead and take these three, put them in here. We have padding in our parent. We'll have a font size of 1 rems. We will have let's make the button, give the button a min width of 100 pixels so it's never too small. A cursor pointer, which I highly recommend because it's just a better user experience. And a font family of Menlo or a monospace font because monospace is fun and trendy. And then something we can do instead now is just export these components individually. Or actually, let's not export button. We'll just inherit it from primary button. And then so we'll come over here, change this to a named export of a primary button. And then so we can also go ahead and change that here. So now if we check out our code, we have a little bit better of a button here, you know. It's a much better look and feel to it. Feels good seeing that cursor pointer, but it doesn't do anything right now. So we'll fix that. If we look a little bit further at the different types of buttons there are, you can see we have default buttons, which is sort of what we have right now. Buttons have hover states, they have focus states, and active states. So the hover state happens when you hover over the button. So usually it will render a bit lighter or just usually more readable. And then focus, you'll usually see an outline around. So this is when a button is highlighted or tabbed. So this is a sort of accessibility feature. And then active when it's being pressed or clicked. So let's go ahead and implement some of these button states here. Let's go back to our buttons components. And then I'm just going to drag in a few colors for us. A primary color, a hover color, an active color, and then some text color that we will apply on the buttons themselves. So we're going to get a bunch of warnings because we're not using them yet. So let's go ahead and add our first hover state here. So something cool about styled components is that they're kind of like Sass, but not the same thing. You can't do all the crazy stuff like you can have for loops in Sass. You can have functions. I'm not sure if you can have all of that cool design functionality, but we do have nesting. We do have ampersand, so it's not bad. It's like CSS plus, we put it that way. So we can start to modularize our CSS here because it's in JS. So that's a major benefit of using styled components. So we can go ahead and give this the primary color, and then we can give this the text on primary color. And then in our hover state, we will go ahead and give it a background color of hover color, as well as giving it a color of the inverted text on primary. So this will change to white, I believe, from black. We can also define our focus state. You know, when you guys make your apps, you definitely don't need to do all of this, but it's really nice to have for you know, just web development in general. Defining your focus state. Accessibility really is important, and it might end up getting you a job somewhere down the line. So just a suggestion from me. So we gave it a white color, and then we're giving it an outline. So that's an outline that you saw in the wireframe of 2 pixels solid, the active color, which is just the brightest red, you know, for the most contrast. And then we will go ahead and define a disabled state, which I could show you how to use. Man, my typing. Ugh. So we are going to give this, oh, I don't think that I imported the disabled colors. So let's go ahead and just define them at the top here. Yep. So down here we will define our background color as disabled. Our color of the disabled text, as well as cursor not allowed. So it's pretty cool. We'll show you what happens here. So the style should apply directly over here. As you can see, the hover state is being applied. Here's our active state. Oh, we are not seeing the focus state. So what happened there? Oh, forgot. So there is an outline being applied, but we need to give it an offset. So outline offset 1 pixel. So this will give it 1 pixel of space all around. There we go. Now it would be nice to have a bit of a transition. So in order to do that, let's go up here and give our parent button. So I would add this to the parent button because I want the transition to be applied on all kinds of different buttons that I create. So let's define here a transition of background color 0.2 seconds ease and a color of 0.2 seconds ease. That was close. 0.2 seconds. Ah, I needed the comma. Well, let's make this linear. That's what I did originally, the comma. 0.2 seconds linear. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful transition. Yeah, looks nice. I like that. Okay. And then I can go ahead and show how to add a disabled state as well. So we would add that right here, just disabled. And this makes our button unable to be clicked. So you can go ahead and add this programmatically. Unable to click the button, no states occurring on a hover, no focus states if we tab or anything. So that's a benefit of using the disabled state. I'd recommend, for forms, if you want to disable a button, if a form is empty, this is great for that. So let's go ahead and add additional button variations. So button variations are great for if you want to just quickly add a larger button or a smaller button or a warning type of button and not have to go through the hassle of creating a whole new styled component. Just something we can throw on here like disabled. Let's just remove that for now. So here in our Buttons.js, we'll go ahead and, first we need to, I think you won't be able to see this because my big head's in the way. But basically, we just want to npm I styled components, styled-components-modifiers. Don't forget the S on components and modifiers. So you go ahead and do that. Wait for that to install. And then let's begin. So the next thing that we want to install from styled components modifiers is the apply style modifiers. So we define modifiers as an object of sort of callback functions. So here let's define our button modifiers with this sort of snake case type of spelling as an object. And we can define the first modifier as a small button. So this is a configuration object of functions that return CSS style template strings. This is cutting edge technology, folks. This isn't, Craigslist technology. This is the real deal. So we can go ahead and just shrink our font size to a 0.8 rems and give it a padding of 8 pixels because it's a design convention. We will also go ahead and add a large button modifier with the same sort of template style. Give it a little bit bigger of a font size because in Texas, everything bigger is better. But I'm not in Texas, I'm in California. We'll give it a padding of 16 pixels and 25 pixels, which is a little scandalous because it's not a multiple of 8. I don't know why I wrote that. Let's give it a padding of 24 pixels. Much better. Okay. And then we will go ahead and add a warning modifier. So, buttons may have a warning state saying, are you sure you want to click this? Because some bad things can happen. I really wish some sites had warning buttons. So we will go ahead and give this a background color of this sort of yellow that I got off Figma, and then a color of black for the text. And then let's go ahead and define all of our hover, focus, and active states for this. It's important to have a bit more functionality, not the default functionality here. So we will define our hover, our focus, as well as our active state here. We'll give it a background color of the same deal, this beautiful yellow. We will give it the color black, and let's just remove the outline for now. So this here is our modifiers, but we are going to get a warning because we are currently not using the button modifiers. This is just kind of an object, configuration object. So before my thing, okay, there we go. See, apply style modifiers is never used. Button modifiers is assigned value but never used. So let's go ahead and listen to the warnings because they're always saying something good. So we will go down here to our primary button. Now we want our modifiers to be as far down in these styled components as possible, such that they are not overwritten. We want these modifiers to have a higher precedence over the other styles. So down below at the bottom of our primary button, here, let me make this a little smaller. At the bottom of our primary button, we will add a new line of JavaScript and use that apply style modifiers function and give it the button, God, I can't type, modifiers. Yep, and that's what we will do. Boom. So go over here to our app.js, and I'll show you how to add modifiers to your primary buttons. So this will sort of just be a prop, modifiers equals a string. Let's start with the large, because everything is bigger and better when it's large. Oof, that's large, man. That's good. And we still have our states, as you can see. And let's try out that small state. What is that looking like? Boom, tiny. Small, but effective. And you can also go ahead and add multiple modifiers. So this will be an array of strings. So we can have a large warning button. I don't know why I'm getting this sort of error looking thing here. Getting a warning in our code, but we have our warning button, as you can see. Yeah, okay. VS Code, man. Boom. We have our large warning button. Doesn't it look just great? I think so. Okay, let's move on to global styles. We can style components, but can we style the foundation? Yes, you can. You could do that with inline JavaScript, but we can also do that with global styles. So let's go ahead and do that. In our source here, we will go ahead and, well, usually we'll have a components directory, and our buttons will go inside components. That's usually what you will see. Great way to organize your oh my god, VS Code, man. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. This should work just fine. We have imported buttons from components. Sorry about that, kind of forgot that. And then we would also have a utils folder, which we will store our global styles. So let's go ahead and create utils. And inside utils, we'll have a global.js. And also what you want to do is, you might not see it because my head is huge. You could create a new terminal on the right and just npm I polished, which is a great library of functions and added functionality for CSS and JS. So you could, let's check out the site real quick. It's pretty cool. So we're going to be using normalize, which will normalize abnormalities. Come on, man. So if you've designed before and check it out across browsers, sometimes styles aren't applied correctly. So normalize is a great way to ensure that all those little inconsistencies in CSS sort of be cleared up. So we are going to be using normalize today, but there's a whole bunch of different functions that we can use. Clear fix for floats. Yeah, I haven't used a lot of these, but just a lot of great, easy to use, like lighten for dynamically for lightening HTML elements, modular scale for modular type scales. Yeah, this is great. Highly recommend this library. So we are going to be using it today for normalizing our inline styles. So we will first go ahead and import an object from styled components called create global style. And then we'll also import normalize from polished. I'll show you how to use this. So we are going to define a CSS reset here with a base font of 16 pixels. Very normal design conventions here. So we will export the global style as create global style. This is actually, yeah. So this ensures cross-browser compatibility, normalize. So we will, it will be just a line of JavaScript, the very first thing we do, normalize. So ideally this should normalize all of our CSS no matter what component we're in. Everything should work cross-browser with this. So we'll go ahead and define our HTML with a font size of 16 pixels. So this is just another CSS reset that I found. Another way we could do that, but usually the box sizing, border box, same deal. Everything will give box sizing inherit. Do a body, margin 0, and let's give everything the font family of Menlo, the monospace font. We will also give our main a width of 90% and a margin 0 auto. Cool. So we can do that to sort of center everything later. And now we just want to import this into our index.js, which will sit under our app component that contains everything. So right here we will import global style from /utils global. Utils, oh, I accidentally put utils outside of src. Oh, it's a, shoot, it's a named export. Oh my god. So we just needed to add the curly braces here. That should do it. And it's kind of hard to sort of see our work here. Oh yeah, there's absolutely no margin. Okay. So now the next thing we are going to do is to create a modal. So here is what we will be building, and we will add all the functionality as well. So first let's create the modal component inside of components. So this will sort of be a composite component which will house the button as well. So sort of a module, I guess designers would call it. So go ahead and import. We will be using React for this one. And styled from styled components. So first, we will create the wrapper to wrap all the contents of the modal inside here. So as you can see, we have this illustration, we have a sign up header, we have body content, and a primary button. So we need a wrapper which will contain the whole thing. So let's go ahead here and add a modal wrapper, which will just be a styled div. We will go ahead and give it a width of 800 pixels. So all of these I sort of just figured out from Figma. So I highly recommend you look up, Figma's free and it's in the browser. So you could just literally go and check it out. But basically I crafted this in Figma. You can go ahead and make your own and then just extract the values from the Figma file. Or if you're working with a designer, even better, make them figure all this out for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Background color of white because it was like a white sort of card, and then we gave it a box shadow to sort of keep it off the ground. We will make the text inside black, and we will make it a flex container. Column align so everything goes top to bottom. We will justify everything to the center. Give it a position relative. Border radius of 2 pixels. And a font family of Menlo monospace. Now we already did this in our global styles, but it's good to apply it here as well. You might have different fonts for your project. So now let's create the sign up header. Oh my god. Style H3. We'll give it a font size of 2 rems and remove the margin from the bottom so it's closer to the text. And then we will define the body content or the sign up text. It goes a styled P. We will give it a font size of 1 rems and a max width of 70%. And align this text to the center of the modal. And now we will go ahead and actually use React. We will create a stateless functional component to house all of these styled components. So we'll export a const, let's call it a sign up modal because you might have different types of modals in here. We will then return the modal wrapper containing everything, the sign up header, which will say sign up, and then the sign up text. Oh my god. Which will say sign up today to get access to cool things. I like the tilde in there. Let's keep it in there. And one more thing. We want to import our primary button in here. Let's go ahead up here and import primary button from buttons. Oh my god. Primary button. Submit. Okay. So let's import the sign up. Oh my god. Modal. You can't fucking type on this thing, man. from components, modals. Scratch that, just modal. Shouldn't rename this to modals. Okay. So let's go ahead and import our sign up modal. Actually, we just sign up modal. Oh my god, dude. Okay, so let's make a directory called assets, which will house some of our illustrations and our icons. Because this X icon here, which I got from Font Awesome. Highly recommend Font Awesome. So if you go ahead and check public, we have the close icon here and the sign up SVG. Now if you want to know more about this illustration, I actually got it from an open source illustration site called Undraw. So Undraw has a lot of cool just open source illustrations that you can take. You can go ahead and put the color that you're looking for in here and it will apply to the illustrations. So I just took an illustration from there. Highly recommend this site. So let's go ahead and we created our assets, and now let's create a we can create an index.js to export all of the assets. Let's create two directories, one called illustrations and one called icons. Now we can just drag in icons, the close icon into our icons directory, and the sign up SVG illustration into illustrations. Now we are going to export these two assets in two different ways. One we will use React, and one we will just export as a SVG. The icon we will be exporting as a functional component. It's the illustration that we will be exporting sort of as an image. We will be using this as the source tag in an image HTML element. So let's go ahead and wrap our close icon here into a functional component. So let's just rename this file closeicon.js. So we are basically just going to be turning this into JSX. So let's import React from React and import styled from styled components. So icon wrapper. So this will be the wrapper for the SVG, and we will also make it an SVG. And we will just give it a width of 100% and a height of 100%. And here, let's export const close icon as a functional component. So we could just wrap it in parens like this. Okay. So down here in our index.js, all we need to do is add a export star or asterisk from /icon/close icon.js, or just close icon. We will also then export the illustration So we will import the illustration as sign up from illustrations signup.svg. So this is just an SVG, and we will export it as a object. We will give it that object property shorthand. So we will refer to it as illustrations.signup for the image tag in our modal. So now that we have this, all we need to do is import it in modals and use it. So let's go over here to our Modals.js, and we will import illustrations and the close icon from /assets. Yep, that's right. And then, okay. So first, let's just, that needs to be at the top. My mistake. Okay. You need to import before you can export. Make note. Okay, so let's import our assets into Modal.js and render them. So first, let's just start with our image. This will be above our header and our text. So we'll just have an image tag here. And we will give it that source property equal to some JavaScript, illustrations.signup. And then also we want to give it an alt tag. Always give it an alt tag. And then you will have less warnings to worry about later. Sign up for an account. That's a good alt to have. And aria hidden to true, because this is not important for screen readers to be read. Let's go ahead and check our app. Man, that button is so big. What is going on with that button, man? So we are going to finish what we started here. Just had to catch a few errors to our modal wrapper. We want to make sure to have the align item center. And it seems like we also have an issue inside of our close icon. We never wrapped this inside the wrapper. So let's go ahead and do let's go ahead and wrap this whole thing. So this is sort of what we want. Boom. With the button and everything. So now we can go ahead and start to add some style or some actual functionality. I know I'm kind of going on for an hour, so let's make this quick. Along with React, we will also import a useState hook. This is cutting edge technology, folks. useState. So right here inside our app, we will have a const. Let's do show modal and set show modal equals the useState of a default value false. And now we can go ahead and add this functionality to our primary button. So when we sort of click this button, we will set show modal to the opposite of show modal. And we will do the same, or not do the same, but we will basically just add props to sign up modal. So we will pass show modal and set show modal. So the close icon can also trigger the state change as well. Okay, and so now in sign up modal, all we need to do is import this as props. So we can just do props, or we can destructure the props like so. So we will import show modal, set show modal in here. So let's go ahead and import React Spring and add some functionality to our modal. So down here you can go ahead and do the npm install React Spring, which is pretty much the best animation library in React, just because it's based off of real physics, and I really think that the best animations are the ones that sort of mimic reality, real physics. So let's go ahead now and import use Spring and animated in here. So let's import use Spring and animated for animating the div from React Spring. Whoops, Spring. Oh my god. So let's go ahead and define the animation inside of our signup modal. So we will have here a const animation equals use Spring function, and sort of some CSS inline styling going on here. The opacity, use it with a ternary. My God. So if show modal is true, we want it to be visible. If not, not visible. And then we also have a little animation. So same deal. If show modal, if it's showing, then it will move to where it is. Else, it will move off the screen kind of a crazy amount. So that's that. And then let's go ahead and we can also assign the animation to our modal wrapper. So to do that, we will go up to the modal wrapper and do a styled animated.div. So we are styling the entire wrapper. So let's go ahead and save this, and hopefully we have no problems. But never used. Oh, that's right. We need to assign the style to the modal wrapper. So always to the animated div, we assign the style to be the animation that we defined here. So that should do it. So let's go ahead and see what we have. Good, we can't see the modal on default. And if we click this button, boom, we get our sign up modal. And then this could always lead to a new page, or, you know, it's your own use case. And I think that we still need to add an event listener to that. So let's do that real quick. To the close modal button, we will add a on-click listener, which will be set show modal to false, because we know in order to click that, it has to be true. So let's test that real quick. Boom. Flies up, falls down, boom. So I really appreciate you guys for checking this out. I hope this was helpful. I love styled components. Mix your peanut butter and your jelly and you get some good shit. So highly recommend. Thank you. Subscribe, trying to get to 69 subscribers. You know the deal. All right. Peace and love.